Hello, everyone, and welcome to this daily digest we are hosting here from the UNCCD COP16, hosted by the Presidency of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We are so happy and thrilled to have you here to join us today on another exciting and impactful day. And as you know, I'm here at the Blue Zone at the UNCCD COP16, and I know there's a camel behind me, and this is the Heritage, the Kingdom Heritage Store. And in a couple of days, we are going to talk with them to get to know more about them and to ask them what are they selling, and also to get to know more about the culture of this amazing country called Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This is Finance Day, but first to jump into this day, we are going to make some mentions about some tips. I think they are going to be very useful for you. For example, this one first is related with the buses. The buses coming out from the every main hotel at the city here in Riyadh, and they come out every 30 minutes from the main hotels to the venue here at the UNCCD COP16. For example, today this morning I went out from my hotel at around 8:30 in the morning, and it took me like 20 to 25 minutes to arrive to the venue. So it's a really useful way to arrive to the venue, and I totally recommend that to you guys. Well, before starting, we had an amazing opening here at the UNCCD COP16 on Drought and Water Resilience Day. COP16 President Mr. Al Fadli announced the Riyadh Drought Resilient Partnership with Saudi Arabia, initially committing 150 million to the initiative. It was a remarkable start, emphasizing the urgency of building resilience against drought and water challenges worldwide. And key stakeholders, including the UNDP, World Bank, and the OPEC Fund, stressed risk-informed approaches, sustainable land and water management, and the economic imperative of addressing drought. So it is time for our first interview here at the UNCCD COP16, and we are going to talk with amazing key actors. So please come and join me. All right, my friends. Where today we turn our focus into finance, a pivotal topic for achieving actually the goals of the UNCCD and addressing desertification, land degradation, and also drought. This is really a key moment. It's so important for the UNCCD COP16. And to talk about this important topic today here at the venue, I'm with amazing guests. First, I'm with Deborah Stern. She's co-founder in the Capital for Climate. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
That's a pleasure for us. I'm also with Tony Lind. He's also a co-founder in the low carbon transition. So thank you very much also for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And co-founder of Capital for Climate.
And co-founder of Capital for Climate also. That's really cool. All right. So you're colleagues.
Yes, we are absolute partners in crime.
That's even great. Partners in crime. That's what we need here at the COP.
Good. What is it? Good mischief.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we need nowadays. All right. So to start this conversation, I'm going to start with Deborah, and I'm going to ask you, why do you think it's critical to involve the private sector into the land desertification, land degradation, and also drought investments, and how we can accelerate their contributions?
Okay. Well, as we've been hearing quite a bit today, most of the investment that has gone into land restoration and drought resilience has come from the public sector, and only, I think it is 4% comes from private sector up until now, and that needs to at least double, and probably much more so. But I think the Riyadh Action Agenda says increase from 4 to 8%, if I'm correct. And so that is essential. And more importantly, it's essential to get the job done. And as importantly, it's essential because there's real opportunities for the private sector in land restoration, as we can share more about.
Yeah. And this is actually a really good way to see it, like an opportunity for the private sector. So it's kind of like an invitation to them.
Yes, absolutely. And what was your second part of that question?
The second part was how we can accelerate the contributions.
Okay. So we can accelerate by making the case really clearly, really expressing a narrative that is true and based on what's actually happening in the market and the opportunities that are there. And through the kinds of work that we're doing and with our partners, to really build the ecosystem of capital and investment. And that is really building an ecosystem that brings the investors together with one another across the risk capital stack and marrying them with the opportunity and the really talented entrepreneurial talent that's out there, as well as the influencers in the space, the policymakers, the think tanks, and others that are really helping to shape the market. And that's the work that Capital for Climate is doing, and the work that we're doing with Ambition Loop and partners like the Climate Champions team.
Absolutely. Tony, I'm gonna go with you now. Um, like Deborah said, there's a lot of non-state actors and also private companies or sectors here at the COP because, well, there's everybody in here actually today talking about this incredible moment. So, how do you think we can maybe improve their participation right now or during this week, for example, at the COP?
I think it really comes down to having sessions that allow them to speak to how they view the opportunity and what they view as their key barriers. You know, a lot of times these sessions are about people giving expert panels and then not really engaging the audience. And I've noticed that there are a lot of there are a lot of corporates here, and there are a lot of financial institutions here, and also the insurance industry is here. And if you watch them, their side conversations after these panels, they're chatting with each other about, I wish I had an opportunity to speak about this, or, why don't we three get together and talk about how we can get some deals done, because, you know, I'm I'm not interested in being spoken to. I want to actually participate.
This is totally true, actually. And it's incredible because if you walk around the hallways, you can see what you're describing like a lot, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's that. What I find about these events is you come to these events and there's a set session, there's panels, and there's an agenda, but it's the people you bump into in the hallways,
Yeah.
serendipitously, the people that come up to you after you speak, that really drive the value, I think, for most of the participants.
Most of the time, actually, it's the tiny conversations, right? The tiny
Right.
conversation which make the big differences. Um, Deborah, what role do you financial institutions do you think play in eliminating, for example, deforestation, and what measures are needed to shift their portfolios towards sustainability, like to make the change? Actually,
Well, I think that there's quite a bit of discussion around shifting their public equities, their public portfolios, to be deforestation free, and I'll leave that discussion to other parties to
Yeah.
really dive into. Where we think there is a lot of opportunity is to turn those ambitions, and there's at least 9 trillion of AUM of large financial institutions that's interested has have made nature focused commitments, investment commitments, and the real opportunity is for them to look at the opportunities to invest in land restoration projects, in agricultural related transformation projects and companies. So I think that's where we need to focus is on those opportunities, and I'll let Tony speak to the sort of dimension of those opportunities, but they very much are real. They're happening right now. We're very engaged in Brazil and other opportunities across Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, soon in Asia. So I think it's about directing people to how you can make money in this
Yeah.
space. Yes, there's a need for catalytic finance to help make these deals more attractive to private sector investors, but that doesn't mean that capital doesn't exist or those deals can't be made. So they are happening. They just need to happen more quickly um, and at greater scale.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do.
Tony, would you tell us a little bit more about what Deborah says? For example, about the plans, for example, about the motivation we can find to bring the companies to change into, for example, a more like sustainable way of producing money or to work, for example, with the capital?
I think right now, all large consumer goods companies that have some connectivity to the agriculture space are thinking about how they're going to invest or facilitate investment in their value chains to reduce biodiversity risk and to begin to invest in either regeneration or restoration. So we're beginning to see that. Companies like Mondelez, Nestle, and others have begun that journey. So I think you're starting to see the capital flow. You're looking at like hundreds of millions to billions, small, like single billions now. And I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see that ramp up. We're going to see the same thing from the trading companies. So large trading companies like Cargill, Bunge, ADM are all part of this beginning of this process. And that's going to be one really important part of the capital stack that gets engaged. The other part is what we call alternative assets. So one thing that people often think about when they're, as Deborah mentioned, when they're thinking about financial institutions, people often think of the public equity portfolios first. The public equity portfolio is what owns a company like Nestle, but it's really their alternative assets portfolio that winds up getting engaged in these transitions first, as you see in other parts of the world. So a lot of what we see in AI, for instance, happening now has been driven by alternative asset managers putting venture capital to work in AI 10 years ago. And we're seeing the fruits of that now. The same thing is happening in alternative assets for nature-based solutions and restoration, where you're seeing real assets managers and infrastructure managers beginning to build specialized funds and vehicles just in the restoration, just in regeneration, just in climate. And that's where we're seeing the capital formation really accelerate now. So we've got around the world, we've identified more than 5 billion of funds in formation. They're just focused on restoration and nature-based solutions or carbon. That's what we see as the first wave. I would be not at all surprised to see that double or triple over the next even 5 years.
So yeah,
And we've identified a total of 16 billion in investable opportunity pipeline, including those funds and vehicles. So there's globally at the moment,
yeah.
and we're still counting. So the opportunity is there for investing, whether it's through a specialized fund, as Tony's speaking about, or into project developers or into companies that are innovating in space.
It's incredible how fast the time goes when the conversation is so interesting because it's 10 minutes now, they are telling me. So I'm going to ask you the last question. What is the relationship, for example, between capital for climate and ambition? What are the projects for the future and the expectation we need to, or we want to have actually in this combination way of work?
So we have formed a partnership to build what we're calling the climate investment engine, and that's partnership with Ambition Loop, and the Climate Champions team is also involved. And it's really about building a full system approach to mobilizing the scale of capital and the type of capital that's required to make this transition, and beginning in nature-based solutions and potentially go not potentially with the ambition to move into other sectors as well. Um, the the opportunity is really around framing the need and the tracking the capital, but it's really about accelerating the capital flows by making connections, building pipelines of opportunity that draw on our shared capabilities and a whole network of players, and also bringing into the fold folks that are doing the capacity building, and then also connecting that to the policy and the market influences that are shaping these markets. So right now, all that work is happening in a very fragmented way, and our aim is to really pull all that together into what we call a radical collaboration.
Yeah.
That's Ambition Loop's term, and to just turn all of these commitments that we're hearing about, these billions of dollars of commitments by various parties, into actual deployment of capital and into actual scale up of the sector. Tony, do you want to add to that, especially around the work we've already begun in Brazil?
Absolutely. The work we're doing on the climate investment engine really builds off the work we've been doing in the last 3 years in Brazil. So we formed something in Brazil called the Brazil Nature-Based Solutions Investment Collaborative. And our core concept initially was we thought that it's going to be really important to bring together all of the different parts of the risk capital community that are focused on nature-based solutions into an elite peer group, because that community is the best one to be the recipients of the capital that we know will come to Brazil for COP30. And it's also the smartest community to be able to help address the scale-up barriers in the actual value chain of nature-based solutions. So we started with originally 9 members. We built that now to 15 members that represent around $2.5 billion of capital that's actually directed to nature-based solutions in Brazil. We know that that's probably the majority of private capital that's focused on nature-based solutions. And at the same time, over the last 2 years, we've organized the pipeline. So we've got a Brazil-based research team that's mapped out the investable pipeline in Brazil. It's around $3.5 billion right now of investable opportunities in Brazil that ranges from project developers, enterprises, technology companies, financial vehicles, and funds. And we brought those two communities together to start actually catalyzing deals. So we've done all that so far on around $1.5 million of philanthropic capital, and we've already mobilized more than $350 million of actual deals within that community, just within our community. And we've tracked more than 1.2 billion of capital flow into the sector. So we're already an important part of the flow in that market. And we think that's now what we've done is built a replicable model, and we want to scale that model globally. The reason that we started in Brazil is it's probably the most important market for nature-based solutions. It has the capacity to scale to 1.2 to 1.6 gigatons per year of absorption, but it's also got the best business conditions by far of any market for scaling nature-based solutions.
Well, that's an amazing project. So thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we just were talking with Deborah Stern and Tony Lin, co-founders of the Capital for Climate. Thank you very much for talking with us here at Ambition Loop. This is radical collaboration, actually. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. It's great.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, friends, that's it for today. Thank you very much for being here, watching our show, The Daily Digest, at the UNCCD COP16. And stay tuned, because tomorrow we are going to explore Land Day. There's so much to tell you about this amazing event, the UNCCD COP16. So thank you very much again for being with us. And remember to follow us on social media. You are watching now the addresses in our screen. So that's all. Thank you very much again. See you tomorrow.